Let's pivot back to the top story this morning, the pressure on the Prime Minister as he just met the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, for just 17 minutes or so. We can speak to a Labour MP who is backing the Prime Minister, Toby Perkinss, who joins us now. Very good morning to you. How are you doing?
Morning.
Why do you still back the Prime Minister?
Well, I mean, the Prime Minister has an electoral mandate. He is, I think, working hard. We recognise we had local elections that were very tough. But I think that with the global situation the country's facing right now, the last thing that we need is to get into the last thing the country needs is the uncertainty of a leadership campaign, the division of a leadership campaign. Actually, what we need is for people to get behind this King's Speech that's going to be delivered and get on with delivering the programme we're elected to do.
I guess, what people on the other side of the argument would say, and you know this as a MP for Chesterfield, is that you look at the elections and there was a clear message from the public. They need something to change. And then you had a speech by the Prime Minister where not that much seemed to change, right? Didn't really announce anything that different or exciting. It was the same kind of arguments that we've heard before. Do you think that the Prime Minister is the man who can really win back those areas for Labour?
Well, I think so. I hope so. But I think he's earned the right, having taken the Labour Party over after our worst ever defeat, led us to our best ever victory. He's earned the right to get through choppy waters. I think we spent a lot of time saying that we inherited a country in a terrible state, but I'm not sure my colleagues have actually internalised what that means. It isn't an easy task, and I think we have delivered in a number of ways. I do think we've got to up our game. I'm not in denial about the scale of those results, but I do think that it's important from the perspective of the party and most importantly the country that the Prime Minister has been seen after the chopping and changing we had under the last government, has been seen to be given a chance to bring this programme through. And, we should remember, over the years, governments have always done badly in local elections. I remember Thatcher doing terribly in 1981.
Yeah, well, there's a bit of a limit, isn't there, as well, though, right?
Well,
look at Scotland, look at Wales, look at London. This is historic. These were
historically bad defeats, but we are in different times. In the past, there was only the Conservatives. Occasionally, we'd lose lots of seats to the Lib Dems in the middle of the term. We do now have options to the far left and to the far right. And so, people are availing themselves of those options. I say, I'm not in denial about the state of those results, but I do believe that right now, particularly because we said that we were coming to power to end the chaos of the previous government, that making sure the Prime Minister has had the time to lay out a case with all his cabinet behind him is the most sensible thing for us to do.
Is all of his cabinet behind him?
Well, no, clearly we have significant issues at the moment. There are people, a lot of my colleagues advocating for a change in leadership. Primarily, not many of them are suggesting we need significant change in policy, are they? What they are primarily saying is we need to sell the message better. And I don't disagree that we need to sell the message better. But I think that, while some will say the Labour Party, will only survive with a new leader, my view is that the party and the wider centre-left progressive movement actually recognise that the Prime Minister has re-established us on the international stage, is making progress on measures, everything from immigration to the National Health Service, and that right now, with the global insecurity we have, is not the right time for a leadership contest, particularly given that we haven't yet got anyone who's stepped forward with the requisite number.
He is desperately unpopular personally. So if that doesn't change and bounce by the end of the year, would you change your position or do you stick to the principle?
Absolutely, except that, there is a limit at which you say that the Prime Minister isn't going to be able to carry the country. I just don't believe that less than 2 years in, given what we inherited and the global situation that we face, is the moment to jump ship and try somebody else. I really think he does need time. And I think that Keir Starmer would recognise if ultimately he felt that he wasn't able to persuade the country, I think if people experience things getting better in their pockets, in the health service, then their view on him might change. And if not, then at that point, at some point in the future, of course, you have to be open to someone else stepping forward.
Can I ask you about West Streeting? Because I'll be honest, we're getting an awful lot of pretty negative briefings from Team Starmer about West Streeting, saying he hasn't got the numbers, that actually, you know, he's so hated within the party that he's not going to get there, that there's anger towards him, towards Labour MPs. What's your own view towards the Health Secretary at the minute?
Well, listen, I mean, I've got tremendous respect for Wes. I think he's doing a great job as the Health Secretary. You know, he's had his meeting. We'll hear what he has to say following that. I'm not really wanting to come onto your programme, take pot shots at others, and I think that's the real danger with a leadership contest, is that actually what we do is we descend into different groups. Through the first 2 years of this government, we've had a very united parliamentary Labour Party, and I fear that coming out of a leadership contest, we won't be as united.
Looking at the 2024 intake, a lot of them have added their names to the list. Do you think they just don't get it? You know, that you've obviously been around a lot longer. You've seen what it's like in opposition. Do you think some of these guys have just got no idea how good they got it?
I wouldn't like to use that phrase, but, you know, many of them have not faced electoral defeat at any point. Many of them have spent much of their time knocking on doors and getting pretty positive responses, and this election recently may have come as a bit of a shock. My first period as a parliamentary candidate was in the teeth of the expenses scandal, the global banking crisis.
But they all loved you on the doorstep back then.
So, you know, I have been around the block, as you can see from the way I look. But, you know, without wanting to point fingers, I do think there may be some who will have come as a shock. The difference between the doorsteps this time and 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Toby, thanks so much for joining us. Good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Toby Perkinss there giving the case for Keir Starmer. It's important, I think, to say, look, we often get all the MPs coming out saying he's got to go, and there are a chunk of MPs, including the person we just heard from, who think that actually that would be a grave mistake. So we're trying to reflect the kind of full spectrum of views in the party today.